Paul had lived most of his adult life in a small, one-bedroom apartment in downtown somewhere. His days were consumed with work as an AI software engineer, and though he enjoyed his independence, a part of him longed for something more, a family of his own. Over the years, he had occasionally toyed with the idea of fostering a child, but it always seemed like a daunting commitment he wasn't ready for. One evening, while scrolling through his emails, he noticed a message from the local foster care agency. They were looking for prospective foster parents. Paul hesitated at first, imagining the paperwork, the training sessions, the responsibility. And yet, something inside him stirred. "I think it's time," he murmured to himself. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of foster parent training. Paul learned about child psychology, trauma, and the delicate responsibilities of caring for a child. He met many social workers, attended workshops, and took notes diligently. It was exhausting, but invigorating. During one session, he was introduced to Sally, a seasoned social worker with a keen eye for temperament and needs. "Paul, you've been approved to foster up to 2 children," she said. "We'll work together to find placements that suit your home and style." Paul felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. 2 children. That was a lot of responsibility, but he was determined. Once approved, Paul knew he couldn't foster in his small apartment. He needed space, room for the child or children to grow, play, and feel safe. He began house hunting and stumbled upon an old, stately house on the outskirts of a small town called Nowhere, just a mile outside somewhere. The house sat quietly on a 2-acre plot, surrounded by overgrown gardens and towering trees. It was silent, almost waiting, as if it knew it would soon be filled with laughter and life. Paul toured the rooms, imagining children running through the halls, sleeping in the bedrooms, and curling up on the large couches in the living room. "This is it," he whispered to himself. "This is where we'll make a family." Using his savings, he purchased the house outright. It was more space than he needed, but it was perfect. A few weeks later, Sally called with news of a 10-year-old boy named Elijah, Eli for short. The boy had been abandoned by his biological parents at the age of 5 and had already run away from 3 foster placements. Now, he was facing his last placement option before being sent to a group home. Paul met Eli in Sally's small, busy office in downtown somewhere. Eli sat quietly on a chair, his small frame tense, eyes wary. The boy had been through so much, and it showed. "Hi, Eli," Paul said gently. "I'm Paul. I hear you're looking for a new home." Eli glanced up, then back at the floor. Is this my last stop?" he asked softly. Paul nodded. "For now, but I promise you'll be safe here. No one's going to hurt you." Sally explained the logistics, the responsibilities, and the routines, but Eli barely looked up. Paul noticed a flicker of curiosity in his eyes, a small opening that might one day grow into trust. The drive to Nowhere was quiet. Eli pressed his face against the car window, watching trees blur past. When they arrived at the house, Paul gave him a tour. The house was massive for just the 2 of them, and both felt a little overwhelmed. But it also felt like a place where anything could happen, a place where they could start afresh. That evening, they had pizza, a tradition for new kids. Eli hesitated at first, unsure of the rules. "What should I call you?" he asked between bites. "Paul is fine," he replied. Eli grinned. "I like that. And can I call you Elijah?" Paul asked gently. Eli paused, mouthful of pizza, and shook his head. "I don't like that name. Call me Eli." "And about discipline?" Eli asked hesitantly. "Will you beat me if I do something wrong?" Paul smiled, his eyes twinkling. "I don't beat people. Only at chess." Eli's eyes lit up. "Teach me chess." Paul chuckled. "Do you want a beating?" "Heck no. I'll be the one dishing it out. Just you wait and see." Laughter broke through the tension, a first sign that trust was forming. That night, they both went to bed, the massive silence of the house now filled with a hint of warmth. The next day, Paul took Eli to school, which was just a mile away. They explored the house, found a couch large enough for both of them to sit, watched cartoons, and adjusted to their new lives. Eli's first counseling session was that Friday afternoon. He loved apple pie from the restaurant near the counselor's office, and that quickly became a Friday ritual, pie and bonding time with Dad after his sessions. Over the next weeks, they explored the house together, set routines, and learned each other's quirks. Eli's room became a sanctuary, and slowly, laughter replaced wariness. 6 months passed. Sally's visits dwindled to occasional phone calls. One evening, as Eli and Paul sat in the living room, Paul called out, "Son, are you ready for that beating yet?" Eli looked up from his comic book and replied with a grin, "Dad, I think you've got that backwards." Something shifted in the air. It was the first time either had used such words, but it felt right. "Dad," Eli said softly. Paul's eyes lifted, meeting Eli's gaze. "Son." Eli nodded. "Yes, Dad. That's what I want to call you." From that day forward, the father-son dynamic was clear, natural, and mutual. Their bond solidified in a quiet, unspoken understanding, one that would later lead to adoption discussions. Just as their adoption conversation began, Paul's phone rang. It was Sally. "Paul, we have another situation. There's a boy who's been beaten by his parents and removed by CPS. He needs a placement. I know you have space in your house." Eli looked up at Paul. "Can we help him?" Paul smiled. "Yes, we can. This is what we do." And just like that, the house in Nowhere was about to welcome another child, the beginning of a family larger than any of them could have imagined.